Awesome. So we're going to be talking about succeeding in your business analysis career, and this is something that a lot of new business analysts and even existing business analysts are always they get anxious about. So let's get started. So I have here Laura, Laura Brandenburg of Bridging the Gap. Probably must have come across her book, her blog, her YouTube channel. She has a lot of media where she uses to champion business analysis. So let's get started. Let's get to meet you, Laura.
Who's Laura Brandenburg? Well, I am the founder and CEO of Bridging the Gap, and Bridging the Gap is an online training company specifically for business analyst professionals. And we focus on core foundational skills and applying those skills as you're learning them on the job so that you leave with work experience and work samples and like actual confidence in your skills. And so that's who I am today, but I know we want to talk about like how we got there and my journey. I was a business analyst for a long time as well, before I struck out on my own. I was also a manager, a director, overseeing a business analyst team, a project management team, and a quality assurance team, and did some consulting as I was getting started with Bridging the Gap. So I have a lot of different perspectives on business analysis that I can share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. So let's talk about your journey, right? Mm-hmm. How did you get into business analysis?
Yeah, so out of college, I had a degree in philosophy and English from a liberal arts school. And my parents refused to pay for me to go get my master's in philosophy. So I decided that I needed to go find like a real job, right? And ended up in an editorial department of a publishing company, which on the outside looked like the gold mine for somebody with a background in English. Like I was responsible for helping get books to market and doing editorial work on books. On the inside, what it felt like was like glorified data entry. Like I didn't write the content. I didn't even edit the content. A lot of times I was like proofing the content that somebody edited to make sure like that their changes actually got incorporated. Like it felt very administrative, very data entry-ish. And the path to getting even from my assistant editorial role into an editor role where I would be responsible for essentially project managing the whole book was like a 3 to 5 year. Like to do it in 3 years was like outstanding, but it was like, oh no, that's something like 5 years from now, like you might be able to do. Mm-hmm. And I was just frustrated. I was like, I don't even know that I want to do that. And it's such a long path. And one of the things that we were doing in our company was like that I was in the book side, the print book side, but there were also a lot of technology projects of putting that information online and organizing those reference books that we were working on into like online databases that were searchable. And so I kept just pushing, like, can I get involved in a tech project? It just seemed like those were more interesting and exciting.
Right.
Yeah. And then I finally, like, I got involved and pushed again to like more responsibility, and like the call in the department was like, oh no, we don't do anything more than we have to. Right. And I was like, well, I want to do more. Like, this is interesting and exciting. I'm learning new things. And finally, I did create an opportunity to do more and ended up doing some really pretty, like at the time, it was a lot of data testing. It's what you would do in SQL today, but it was using a proprietary software that the company had built.
Right.
And that ended up leading to a role in the quality assurance team. So that was my like path out of feeling really stuck in my career and into more of a technology focused role that eventually then led to business analysis.
So when you got your move into business analysis, how were you able to, succeed in the business analysis career and, change jobs and grow in your career? How were you able to do that?
So in that quality assurance role, what I was doing was, so there were software testers who were testing the functionality of the application, and I was testing the data. So because I had the editorial background, so when we search for XYZ term, is it actually returning the right results versus are all the buttons on the screen working correctly?
Right.
And so I got a crash course, even though I didn't have any technical background, like in how our technology was built. And a big part of that role became determining whether a bug that was like looked like the data was actually a data bug or a functional bug. And so I learned how that organization's software was architected at the time.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of the technology people. I proved myself. I got to learn Excel really well in terms of manipulating data in
Yeah.
Excel. Not like data analytics like we do today, but
Mhm.
just like looking at various queries and how things were matching up.
Yeah.
And I also, part of that role was also still going back to the editorial teams and involving them. And
Mhm.
so I was creating processes that were a lot like what we would call user acceptance testing today.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that term at the time. I was just like, well, we need you to look at the product and tell us what's wrong. And then I'll determine what kind of bug it is, and like
Right.
kind of be in between the business and tech from a testing perspective.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that and kind of creating those processes as I went. And I really got noticed as somebody who would fit the profile of business analysis. And I had somebody, the title in that team was systems analyst. It was a little bit more technical.
Yeah.
But I had somebody approach me from that team and say, we have a job opening and we think that you should apply. And I had really like never thought about it because I was only about a year and a half into my QA role. And to me, like I felt so invested in that team, and there was so much, like testers are like, bless their souls, always like overworked, right? Always on the tail end of a project. Like, and I was, how can I leave my team? You know, she's like, Laura, it's going to be a lot better money and this is a better career opportunity. Like you really should think about it.
Moving into the business analyst role, without having that title. And this is a common question that I get, that you get, and you've answered like a million times, right? On your blog, on YouTube, people say, oh, I never had the title of business analyst, so nothing makes me qualified to apply for a BA role or to decide to call myself a business analyst today and apply to a company and say, hey, I can help you, solve your business problems. Yeah. How were you able to, make that transition even when you didn't have the title? And what would you advise people who are stuck in, that kind of situation as well?
Yeah, and I have actually never officially had the title business analyst because I was systems analyst a couple of times, and then I was manager of business analysis, and then I was director of enterprise solutions. So like it just sort of, like it never happened where I was just plain old business analyst. But what I was interviewed for, I will say, when I was moving from QA to BA, she was looking for like my ability to run meetings, to collaborate with stakeholders, and I feel like I must have been able to. It's hard to remember exactly what I was answering at that time, but like to talk about how I had set up these new processes in the testing environment, and to talk about how I was running meetings with business end users. Yeah. And my experience, I had also had experience like reviewing requirements documents and giving feedback on those requirements documents. And so like I had some exposure that I could speak to, and it was recognized that there was going to be a need for me to like do some on-the-job training in terms of how to actually create the requirements. Right. But I had all these underlying competencies, and because I was making a switch within the same company, I also had a lot of business knowledge and systems knowledge to draw from. And so there were some areas where I actually knew more than the systems analyst at the time, because I'd been like in the data, and I knew I knew what was needed for the specs for the data. And they almost leaned on me for that. And then I leaned on them and got a lot of peer mentoring early on in terms of, higher level business requirements and how to engage a product manager, and what a use case was like, and, and that kind of thing.
You have a degree in English and philosophy, and then you're working in editing, and then, you got into QA and then into BA. Were you ever scared of, getting involved in technology? Because you said, you were excited by that. And I know that feeling because I am excited by technology. Yeah. So for people who are scared and feel like, now that I have to work as a BA and they use a lot of technology here, does that mean I have to write code? I have to do all that?
Yeah, find people that can help you. So when I took that first data testing role in editorial, like I didn't know what I was doing, but they were so glad somebody was taking it on. Like there was somebody ready to train me on it. She's like, I will come to your desk, because she was the one who was always like, it was thrown on her. And so she saw the opportunity of like, I can spend a half hour to an hour training this person, versus having, 10, 20, however many hours of work to do myself. And so, it was a lot of reaching out for help, and just, I think there was a certain trust of my intellect that I did have, which I was really enhanced with the philosophy degree of like, I know how to figure things out. I know how to think things through. And so if something's not making sense to me, like I can ask a question. And I would just give that to everyone. Like, if you're going to be a good business analyst, you probably are a strong analytical thinker. And so trusting your analytical thinking, and when there's a gap or something that's not connecting, like who can you ask to help fill that in? And it could be something that you don't know, like, and need to be educated on. It could be something nobody else has thought of, right? And like, oh, this is a gap. And so just asking those questions and building relationships with people on your technical team, adding value to them, making their job easier where you can. And as soon as you start to make their job easier, by communicating things or providing things of value to them, like they're going to be willing to train you too, because then it's like it's a circle that feeds them. And that's how I learned so much about technology, was just always relying on my technical team and asking questions and making sure that I was giving them requirements and giving them information that was helping them as well.
So I've had, someone say, oh, but I feel like, being a business analyst and getting into tech, it seems like a male-dominated field, right? And there's some women who feel like, oh, it's a male-dominated field. I think I'm going to really struggle with sort of gaining my grounds in that area. What would be your response to that for any, woman who's trying to get into business analysis or tech and feels, oh, it's a male-dominated, domain?
I think that for all of us as women, we just have to own the value of what we're doing, the contribution we can make, the way, and expect people to embrace us for our skills and our abilities. And then of course, there's going to be those times when, men aren't acting up to what we would like them to act up to, or, you face those scenarios where you do have to address them. But I mean, just go in expecting people to be excited about your skill set and your abilities and the value that you can have.
When it comes to, business analysis and, working as a BA, there is the skill set with regards to doing the work and, getting your requirements and all those amazing things that we do. But there's also the mindset part of things and, how you should think as a BA, right? And I found that, the mindset is also a key part of things aside from the skill sets, right? I'd like to, know your thoughts with regards to how the mindset of a BA, like how having a great mindset would help you in your career as a business analyst, because it's one thing to know how to use all the technology and, all the skills, right? But not having the right mindset. So where does the role of mindset come into business analysis?
Yeah, I think one of the most important mindsets is a solution orientation, right? So in my first role, actually, my first big project, right, like I had, because I understood the tech, like knitted together this solution in my head. And I remember going to this project kickoff and like sharing, here's the solution, like this is how we're going to do it. It's a really complex thing. And like talk about young and male, right? Like this, I feel like I was this little 25-year-old woman, not girl, but woman, right? Presenting this big idea to a bunch of 30, 40, 50-year-old developers. and they all freaked out and were like, this isn't going to work. What are you thinking? And what I had to do, the mindset I had to step into was, oh, right, I'm kind of trying to step outside my job. My job is to come up with the requirements, not necessarily the solution design, but be solution oriented about not just how are we going to solve this business problem, but how am I going to work with this team to get them invested in this? And so, I mean, the solution orientation there was just to take a bunch of steps back. Like, okay, these are the requirements. Let's collaborate and come up with some possible solutions. And, really, respect the fact that I was brand new to this role and there were some things I didn't know about the technology, right? And and build that collaborative nature. So I think that's another really important mindset for a BA is collaboration, getting buy-in, right? And just looking for incremental progress all of the time in terms of moving your team towards clarity and towards agreement and towards shared expectations.